Ja, gut. Erstmal, ich bin erleichtert und inspiriert. So ein Niveau von Intellektualität und analytischen Grundsätzlichkeit in der Öffentlichkeit habe ich bis jetzt nie erlebt und ich möchte wirklich alle Akteure und Akteurinnen bedanken. Also, ja, können wir erstmal dann bedanken. Das war in der Tat eine steile Vorlage, als der Herr Lenzen mich angerufen hat und direkt gefragt, ob ich diese Themen begleiten würde. Es hat angefangen mit dem Zitat von Ernst Mach, das unrettbare Ich, und in 30 Sekunden können Sie bitte aus etwas das machen. Das war unser Beratungsgespräch und ich glaube, wir haben etwas aus das gemacht. Das war ein sehr, sehr erfolgreiches Projekt. Also, wir kommen zum Abschluss der zweiten Hamburger Horizonte und ich werde nicht versuchen, die Beiträge in Diskussionen zusammenzufassen. Das ist nicht möglich. Das würde gegen meine eigene Test von der Praxistauglichkeit verstoßen, was ich gestern Abend den Sleep-Test genannte. Ich muss mindestens bis morgen früh warten, denn die meisten, was ich gehört habe, war alles anders als steile Thesen und Provokationen. So. Stattdessen möchte ich die Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein Thema anzusprechen, auf das ich meine Einleitung hingewiesen habe. Einige dieser Gedanken, dazu werde ich dann mit Erlaubnis auf Englisch umschalten. Der Grund ist einfach, einige dieser Gedanken, was ich hier vortragen möchte, sind sehr, sehr frisch und ich habe keine passende Wortlaut für die auf Deutsch gefunden. Auch nach 25 Jahren bilden sich meine Gedanken noch in der Sprache, in meiner Heimatsprache, die am besten zu einer Tasse Tee um 4 Uhr nachmittags passt. Das Aufgeben ein Interesse in Cricket war im Vergleich sehr einfach. Ich glaube jedoch, dass dieses Publikum, aber ich habe die Erlaubnis von Herrn Dittmer bekommen, dass dieses Publikum also nicht die große Schwierigkeit haben mit was folgt. Außerdem ist das, was ich zu sagen habe, sehr wohl ein globales Thema und also scheint in gewisser Weise Englisch das Medium zu sein. So, aber der Steilanfang von Herrn Özdemir, he really did help me. Mr. Özdemir, you will not miss the British. There's one here, and I must correct you a little bit about Brexit. You asked the question, how did a country that delivered us Monty Python deliver us Brexit? Brexit is the Monty Python, the way it's been going. I mean, that is extremely important. So you won't miss the English, I am here. Okay. I would like to discuss some practical and institutional responses to what we've heard over the day, and in particular in response to what Nida Rümelin has said to us, what Michael Pauen has said to us, and what Dennis Snower had contributed, this topic of education. The applied branch of philosophy is not only careful and critical scrutiny of public policy and law, it is also about making constructive proposals for educational practice. In the pragmatist world, there's a very tight connection between philosophy and education. Dewey, my favorite philosopher, nicely said, if we are willing to consider or conceive of education as the process of forming fundamental dispositions, intellectual and emotional, towards nature and fellow men and women, this is old language, sorry, philosophy may be defined as the general theory of education. Holding this in mind, I ended my introduction yesterday evening by mentioning that our scientific worldview, unser Wissenschaftsweltbild, and our ethics will influence our social world and the state of our planet. We may or may not achieve this broad and reasonable consensus on both, but we have good reasons to try. Now, to answer this question, we need to look first at an important So, holding this in mind, we want to ask how to do this. To answer this question, we need to look at an important fact directly related to the theme of this conference. Science and engineering, especially in the domain of artificial intelligence and nanotechnologies, will determine our planetary future. As mentioned, this is something very near. Just last week, the federal government announced a planned investment of $3 billion in the period up to 2025 for artificial intelligence. It includes, for us, as a lobbying statement in academia, 100 new professorships. Now, all in all, we are seemingly on course to establish a new, and I would think a worryingly powerful STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and German, the MINT-Fächer elite, who will fill positions in academia, business, and government. Our current generation of PhD students, unsere Doktoranden, globally seen, will be our decision makers in 10 to 20 years from now. They are the ones who will determine our intellectual climate and future. We need to ask ourselves, what kind of scientific worldview, what kind of ethics this new STEM or MINT elite will have? Whatever it will be largely determined by the intellectual and cultural dispositions and influences of the generation now. Now, switch your focus back to the 3 billion. There are increasingly loud calls to develop codes of conduct for AI and R&D research and nanotechnology research and biotechnology research. And for AI, calls to build morality into AI, if that is at all possible. Nick Bostrom, director of the Future of Humanities Institute at the University of Oxford, argues in his book Superintelligence that, to use current Brexit terminology, we need a moral backstop. We need some moral values, at least in the production of the AI or in the AI itself. One, he suggests, is keep humankind ultimately in charge of its own destiny. This is required, according to Bostrom, to prevent a superintelligent AI becoming an existential threat. Now, regardless if you believe that that's going to be true or not, Steven Pinker doesn't think it's so, and we heard this morning others don't either, who will be the future decision makers who are going to define that moral backstop or govern it? It is, however, a problem that is in front of us, and we have to think about it. There's a problem looming here that's not we have to deal with, but it's not insurmountable. This problem has a dimension far in excess of the dangers of AI itself. There's more powerful, more creative, and potentially more destructive technology at the work in the hands of a global STEM or MINT elite. It's called HI, human intelligence. If we have moral qualms about the future developments of AI or any other modern technology, we should be as easily worried or more worried about human intelligence and how we create that intelligence and our responsibility for regulating it. Pause for a moment. Look at the question before you. What reasons do our future generation of scientists and engineers have to actually implement a moral backstop or to govern our technologies in a way that is beneficial? One argument is if and when it is needed, it will be a matter of law. But that is magical thinking. That would be require lobbying of unimaginable proportions. Think of the Germans' arms industry that is contributing to the death and destruction around the world on a daily basis. That has still to be legislated out of existence. The other argument is that the AI engineers will simply be fulfilling their normal moral duties. Again, this is magical thinking. Except for a small band of idealists, it is more likely or not only to be personal interest, and that because it's only in the province of a small band of idealists, it's unlikely to be seen as a moral duty, a strict moral duty. It's something that we must do. No, it will only be applauded as something nice or extra, like charitable giving. Our problem is how to deal with that. If we want to establish certain norms of our future STEM or MINT community, these norms will have to be created. To establish these norms in the scientific community, we have to overcome another problem, which is the fragmentation problem, die Fragmentierung unserer wissenschaftlichen Weltbild. What is this problem? Community norms are self-reinforcing systems of expectations among members of our community. They require unity among the members of the community, of a comprehensive conceptions of the good. This is basically a worldview. But does this exist in our academic, our STEM communities? Today it is doubtful. I suspect that the average STEM or MINT PhD student has little understanding of what science is really about. They understand how to do their science, but nothing more. They do not share comprehensive worldviews or conceptions of the good. And if you ask them to think about the Kantian question, which I raised yesterday, was ist der Mensch? You will likely observe a look of bewilderment. And some, interested as they may be, will be too embarrassed to admit it. They learned that those questions are something you grow out of, or you've got over them. But these young scientists are not really to be criticized for this. The fact is that at least the STEM community has a chance. It's what we do and often offer to them. The Kantian question was once upon a time part of our wallpaper of science, but it has become grey and deteriorated. So even if the student would approach me and ask what to do, where to start, the way science is organized as a highly complex division of labor, it's highly successful, but at the same time highly fragmented, creating a fragmented system of knowledge and a fragmented worldview. It's impossible for any student to grasp what is and what ought to be. And that is across all different disciplines. Most of us are simply lay people, laien in our own disciplines. Add professional pressures, publish or perish, make or die, and there's precious little time, even regard for the consideration of how everything fits together. It is reasonable to say that in our so-called knowledge society, measured by the stock of knowledge, no one knows anything. A crucial feature of this fragmented worldview is a breakdown in academic integrity, a commitment to truth and a willingness to resist epistemic intimidation, as we see in the climate debate, for example, or the problem with a discussion of Heimat or the other word which we're not allowed to use any longer. Academic integrity is based on an understanding of science as a whole, which includes common scientific picture of the world, an agreed set of practices to its maintenance. As it stands at the moment, our future scientific elite is on the way to be a fragmented technocratic elite without integrity. Why should we be worried about this? There's many reasons, but I want to hone in on one. A technocratic and highly fragmented scientific elite that lacks internalized norms of academic integrity might be a real problem for democracy. In modern knowledge and tech-based societies, confidence in this elite, confidence in epistemic authority, our experts, is a requirement for a functioning of our democracy. But if the STEM or MINT elite is fragmented and cannot offer a coherent picture of the world and lack the ability to readily communicate with the public, with non-specialists in a comprehensible way, that authority will be dissipated, and this will be made even worse if it exhibits lack of integrity. It is no accident that one Mr. Steve Bannon recently declared on his tour of Italy that the 2008 financial crisis was brought on by engineering, financial, scientific, and cultural elite that goes every year to the World Economic Forum. The STEM scientists are being made complicit with the injustice of our world order. Interestingly, the Guardian reporter who interviewed Bannon affirmed this belief may be correct. This should concern us all, regardless of whether it's true or not. What to do about this? In a sense, the answer is obvious. It is in the air. It's like bringing sand to the beach. One only needs to repeat it. It's a question then of, will it be done? What we need to do in our universities is to offer our future scientists attractive opportunities to engage with some form or another of the Kantian question, was ist der Mensch? I take this as a structuring process for developing practical solutions to this fragmentation problem and countering all the attendant consequences. Institutionally, we are urgently in need of graduate centers for science integration, science reflection, and science communication. Our young scientists require a designated institutional space from where they draw upon a rich program of lectures, seminars, workshops, and events such as these. I hope we have PhD students here, where you can explore this large and important question that guides our life, was ist der Mensch, in the context of specialist fields. Put it in this way, we require to turn our human intelligence into a form of reflective intelligence. It's not sufficient simply to point us advanced students in the direction of the philosophy departments or scientific ethics courses or media training. This is just all part of the specialization that's part of the problem. This will require rethinking not only bachelor education, master education, but also our postgraduate, our graduate education, our PhD education, if we're thinking about the future. It requires an ambitious project of funding and institutional reform so that we can actually start to deal with the problems that we've been talking about today from the top as well as from the bottom. I would like to close with a thought that ties all the themes together and bring us back to the Kantian theme. The conference title, Ich am Ende ich, turns out to have a very elegant interpretation. In the closing paragraphs of his Critique of Practical Reason, Kant says two things that fill his mind with awe: the starry heavens above him and the moral law within him. For Kant, the starry heavens refers to the problem of knowledge of the physical universe and our place in that universe. The moral law refers to the autonomous and free person in that universe. Here, the starry heavens and the moral law say different things about us. We are insignificant in the physical world of our starry heavens, but the moral law boundlessly raises our value as intelligent and responsible beings. With all the modern technological developments we have discussed here, our uniqueness and significance dissipates even more. Ich am Ende. But the good news is, the moral challenges that we face raise our value as autonomous and free persons, each and every one of us. Am Ende ich. This is a statement of our responsibility for the future. Vielen Dank. Und jetzt ist die zweite Hamburger Horizonte am Ende. And what a pleasure it has been.